Yeah, we are live. Sejal, you can start.
Hello everyone, I am Sejal Chirsagar, Head of Projects and Internship Team at AICVS of CCOE Pune. Welcome you all to today's session. AICVS is the Artificial Intelligence and Computer Vision Society of Cummins College of Engineering. It is a club for artificial intelligence and machine learning enthusiasts. Research is seeing what everybody else has seen and thinking what nobody else has thought. Research unlocks the unknowns, lets you explore the world from different perspectives, and fuels a deeper understanding. In most areas, research is an essential part of success. Our today's speaker, Michelle, is a recent graduate of Computer Engineering Department in Cummins College of Engineering for Women and is currently a computer science PhD student at Northeastern University, where she works with Amal, Ahmed, and Frank Tech on research problems in WebAssembly. As an undergraduate, she has pursued research internships at IIT Bombay on compiler generation and data flow analysis, and even at IIT Patna. She did her BTech project at IIT Bombay on programming languages and compilers. Now, without wasting much time, I would request Michelle to take over.
Hello, it's nice to be back. I was head coordinator of AICVS in my third year, so it's really nice to see that the club is like continuing and moving forward and helping students with like research and ML and stuff like that. So anyway, let's get started. Let me share my screen. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll mostly be talking about research and also a bit about how you would apply to PhD programs in computer science. Okay, so first of all, you should keep in mind that I am one single person who has tried to do research during her undergraduate. But it's always good to meet more people who have tried to do this and learn what their experiences are. And yeah, generally, I so far have done research for around 3 years. And this will be a general discussion about undergraduate research rather than my specific undergraduate research experience. And I'll discuss privilege wherever it's relevant. And the purpose of this talk is generally to introduce you to research and help you apply for research internships if you want to pursue it. I'd also like to share my experience because there weren't a lot of seniors who spoke about doing research, if they did research at all. And I really wish there had been, because there were a lot of lessons that I learned that ended up being super useful to me. And I also hope that if you do actually decide to pursue research, then that you will carry this forward, you will help others, and this can go on. So my background is that I did in the summer of my second year, I did a research internship at IIT Patna on machine learning, in which I co-authored 3 papers. And then in my third year summer internship, I did it at IIT Bombay, another research internship. This one was in the domain of programming languages and compilers. So I looked at static analysis, I looked at points to analysis and data flow analysis. The whole of my fourth year, we have to do a BTech project, and that was also a research project that was sponsored by IIT Bombay. And we looked at, again, in the field of programming languages and compilers, and I started my PhD in programming languages at Northeastern this fall as well. So, brief outline for this talk, we'll talk about what research is, how you would do research internship, my experience, as well as in the middle, I talk about how you would possibly use this experience to apply for PhD programs if you want to. So, what is research? This is a very hard question to answer, and honestly, I'm doing a PhD to figure part of that question out as well. And people are given talks entirely on the question of what research is. And you should go actually and look at those talks. So there's one that's linked here by Dr. Thalakottur called What is Research? That's very good. And also Richard Hamming, who spoke about the relationship between research and researchers. And I mean, personally for me, it's about learning and original thinking and like pushing the boundaries of human innovation at its purest, if that helps. And why, I mean, when I speak to students about research, a big question that they should be asking, and they do ask, is why they should consider research at all. And I mean, the first question is always, is it useful in campus placements? And the answer for that is like mixed. Sure, it is useful because the ability to do research shows that you have an ability to learn new concepts deeply and apply them, present your work, etc. And this is something that you can definitely talk about in your interview, and people would be excited to hear it, especially if you are excited about the topic. However, it is not going to get you a software engineering job, mainly because research and software engineering are two different things altogether, though there is an intersection between them. Okay. So the other thing is that if you want to go into further studies, so if you want to do a master's or an MTech or a PhD program, then these admission committees value research experience. PhD programs value it a lot more than master's programs, and the more the competitive the program, the more they value it generally. So don't take my word for this, because I am but one person. What you should do is you should look at profiles of students. If you are interested in higher studies, you should look at profiles of students in PhD and MS programs and MTech programs as well, to see the kind of research experience they have, what sort of things are these admission committees looking for, etc., etc. So, personally, it is really, really fun to do research, and it's very intellectually stimulating and enriching because you're learning everything. You're learning new things every day. And you might just like it so much that you might end up making a career out of it, like I did, or hope to. And just right off the bat, I'd like to address some very common misconceptions that show up. A lot of people think that they need to be super smart to do research, and well, they're not smart. They think that they're not smart, so then they conclude that they cannot do research. And I would say that nobody cares that if you're smart or not. This isn't just me who's saying this. All the mentors that I have ever met, and all the people who I've ever worked with, including people at IIT Bombay and IIT Patna and at Northeastern here, wouldn't say that being smart is the biggest deciding factor in whether you should do research or not. Much more important is if you're actually excited about the work that you want to do, because that's what's going to drive you forward. And another misconception is that you have to know what field you want to work in from the starting. And if you're not sure about that, then what do you do? And a lot of people change fields. It is very common to change fields, especially as an undergraduate. Nobody expects you to choose a field and then stick to it for the rest of your life. And I changed fields. I started off doing machine learning research, and now I do programming languages and compilers research, and software engineering research. And a lot of research is also very multidisciplinary. It's hard to draw lines in computer science between different types of research and say that you're never going to interact with machine learning research, you're never going to interact with programming language research. You probably will at some point. So, this is just no need to worry about it. And another thing that people have sort of at the back of their minds is that, well, I'm just a computer student and I can't do research because I think you need to be an IITian to do like very smart things like research. That's not true, because getting into an IIT is just a matter of one or two exams. And that shouldn't inform your opinion of yourself for the rest of your life. So you are what you tell yourself. Don't hold yourself back. If you think that you're like really excited about a field and you want to try giving research a shot, then you should do that. Give it a shot and then decide whether or not you can do it or whether you want to do it, etc. So yes, hopefully some of you are thinking that maybe you can do this or consider it seriously enough. And a lot of questions that I get are also that, can I do independent undergrad research? And especially if you don't have a professor who's advising you. And a lot of these students come to me and say, and the way that they think researchers write papers is that, you choose an algorithm, you get some results, you put that in a paper, you put it in latex so it looks pretty, and you cite a few sources, and then it's a paper, and then you can get published immediately. You may get published, but that is not how good quality research works. And you may impress your friends. You may be able to tell them that, oh, I published a paper, and I have really, I'm very smart, but you aren't fooling anyone worth fooling. And the people worth fooling are, if you want to get into grad school, then the people worth fooling are the people in the graduation admissions committee. But you're not going to be able to fool them. So you might as well not try. And the thing about publishing is that there do exist a lot of predatory journals who will publish a paper without peer reviewing it because all they want is your money. So that's the thing about publishing. You need to give people money for them to publish your paper. And so there are some people who will just take your money and publish your paper without it having any prestige, without it having any actual interaction with the academic community that you are trying to publish work in. And additionally, if you publish in places like this, it can be a disqualification or just not considered at all. Because, again, the people worth fooling, i.e. the graduation admissions committees, will know what places publish good quality research and what places don't. So honestly, you should not do this. It is better for your career. It is better for your learning, your mental health, to try to do good quality work and publish in good places. And also to find a good professor. Because there's a lot of things that you gain when you have a good professor advising you. You learn a lot from them. They help you evaluate your ideas. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a collaboration that you enter into. And I have had mentors that have really, really helped me grow, not just in terms of the research that I'm doing and how much I understand about it, but also personally. And the best mentors really push you to do the best that you can and even like surpass that limit that you thought you had. And honestly, good professors are worth their weight in gold. So you do have to remember while pursuing research that good work takes time. And it also takes expertise. Expertise is what you're borrowing from a professor when working with them. It does not take luck. And research is a marathon, it's not a race. It's something that you have to strive continually towards. And you do have to chase opportunities to learn from incredibly fantastic people because there is a lot that they can teach you. And a great way to try out research and see if it's a good fit for you or not and as well as this opportunity to interact with very good professors, is research internships. So how do you do a research internship? And mainly before applying, you do have to choose a specific domain. I would say that you should just pick a domain that you're interested in and dive right in. And you should explore anything and everything that seems interesting to you. So if you're in first year, second year, I remember I spent a lot of time using Coursera to explore, and there's a Coursera course called Programming Languages, taught by Dan Grossman from University of Washington. That is astounding, and honestly was my first introduction to programming languages. And I'm pretty sure without having done that course, I wouldn't be here. So I use Coursera to explore. You can use it too, but you can also try using textbooks. If you like building things in small projects, you can write your own programming language. You can write your own compiler, and there are also different other massive online courses platforms like MIT OCW, edX, that you can use to explore different domains. And above everything, you should build up a love of learning. So the point of going through all these courses isn't to collect certificates. The certificates are they do not matter at all. I don't have a single Coursera certificate. I audited all the courses that I took. And but it did help me really love whatever I was learning. And you have to learn to think in concepts, because there is literally no point in just memorizing everything that you're learning, and you should focus on getting the basics right in these domains. And you do have to remember that you are an undergrad, and it is better for you to try stuff out right now and realize it is not, it's maybe not the field for you. It just becomes much more difficult down the line. Maybe if you're working, to try and completely switch fields. So doing it in undergrad is the best option, according to me. So there is also a thought that, if you start doing research in one field and you switch to another, then you would have wasted time doing research in this other field. And, you don't want to waste time. You want to do good work with the ultimate field that fits you the best. And all good research experience is useful experience, essentially. And as an undergrad, nobody is expecting you, again, to choose a field that you will work with for the rest of your life. And you will learn a lot about the process of research doing a research internship in a different area, rather than the one that you end up doing research in later. And all of this knowledge that you will learn is also transferable. And I do speak about this with a certain amount of personal experience, just because I did machine learning research, and when doing programming languages research, the process of research still remained the same, and it was transferable. And additionally, your personal conviction that you want to do research in another field will be strengthened by your experience in other fields, because you will know exactly why you want to work in this field, rather than, oh, this is the first one that I did and it seemed fine, so I'm sticking to it. Okay. Another very common question is, do I do a hot topic or do I do something that is not being talked about that much? There are advantages to both and disadvantages to both. With incredibly popular topics like machine learning, deep learning, I don't even know, blockchain, is that popular still? Then it can be very oversaturated. There are a lot of researchers that are working in this field. Additionally, you may get a very fancy professor who is very good at what they do, but then they might not be spending as much time with their students as you would like or need. But there are disadvantages to not popular topics as well. So for example, programming languages and compilers isn't the most popular research topic, because I don't think a lot of people know about it as an active research field and domain. And yeah, it's not very flashy. Nobody explicitly talks about research in PL. And additionally, with these research areas that aren't being talked about a lot, the low-hanging fruit are all gone, because people have been doing research in this from like the 1950s and maybe even earlier. And there aren't any. The easy problems in a way have been solved, as seen by an outsider. I think once you come into the field, then you realize just the breadth of research that is still to be done. So what do you choose? You choose something that's popular, or you choose something that is not? And either can be a field that interests you. If your interest in a field is determined, if you can identify that you're interested in a field, it's determined by how impressive it sounds. if you like doing research in machine learning, because you can go to your friends, you can go to your parents and say, I do research in machine learning, and then they'll be impressed because they know what they sort of understand what that can entail. Then realize that that is not sustainable. You do have to genuinely have an interest in the field. So you do also have to manage your expectations. As an undergraduate, you have to put in a lot of time, and you can have different levels of expectation from yourself. So at the end of it is groundbreaking research, which you shouldn't have that expectation from yourself. A paper published in a reputable conference can be something that you aim for. But ultimately, I think you should just think about learning something very interesting, very deeply. And you also have different levels of expectations from a professor. So the best thing a professor can give you is always time. So if you find someone who's giving you time, really cling on to them. But you cannot expect spoon feeding, you cannot expect personal lectures, because again, these people are very busy, they have a lot of work to do. You do have to be able to learn yourself. Now, how do you apply? When I first started looking into this, into how I would possibly get a research internship, I got a lot of advice that is really, really bad advice. And I want to discuss that with you and why it's bad. So the first one was just like cold email professors because they're dying to get students involved in research. Now, the better the institute, the more students are dying to work with professors. Generally, professors are very wary of student emails that they get, especially if they are from a template or if they don't seem genuine. And many of them will not respond to your email. This is especially true with foreign universities, but it is also, as true with IITs. And another piece of advice is that I heard quite a lot was keep up a good CGPA, and then professors will ask you to work for them. You should keep up a good CGPA, sure, but nobody cares about it because, no one has ever asked me for a CGPA. If anything, they use it as a qualifier. But really, for internships, no one has ever asked me for my CGPA. And I have a decent CGPA, so I'm not biased in saying that CGPA does not matter. I have not seen it matter as much. What matters much more is what you have actually learned in your courses to getting that good CGPA. The other implicit thing is that getting a research internship is a meritocracy because, if you are the best student, then you get the best research internship. Unfortunately, nothing in life is a meritocracy. You may be the best person for the job and you still might not get it. However, you shouldn't be as disheartened about this. You should think about it, well, if the best person for the job may not get it, then I might as well apply for every opportunity and then see what happens. So hopefully the advice that I'll give you now is a lot more nuanced. Please let me know if it works for you, if it doesn't. So generally it has worked for people. So hopefully it works for you as well. So my advice is that you should talk to professors you know about research and about the domain that you are interested in doing research in. And then you should ask them to refer you to a researcher that they know who is doing active research in that domain. Why do I say this? I say this because as a student, especially as an undergraduate student, you are only as good as the advisor that you have. If you cold email people, you might fall in with someone who does bad research. People do exist who do bad research or, are not interested in helping you learn as much as they should be. And no professor who you know will knowingly recommend you to anyone who does bad research. Additionally, there is a higher success rate. If you're personally recommended to someone, then they are more invested in your doing well rather than like a random stranger who you're talking to. You can also ask your seniors to recommend professors to work with and refer you if they can. This is a bit dicey because it may or may not work, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So how do you, I said that you should get to know a professor, you should speak about your interests and what you want to do, and how you want to do it. How do you do that? I mean, you should really just try to build up a personal relationship with these professors. And I'm talking about professors in your courses, so commerce professors. So talk to them outside class about the course and about their research, about things that you want to be, that you want to do in the future. Ask them for their opinion. Ask if they're working on a project. Ask to get involved. They have been in academia and research much more than you have, and most of the people I've met are very, very helpful. And really, all you need to do is be polite and be kind and be excited about the work that you want to be doing. Don't talk to them with a solitary aim of getting something out of it. Just, try to build up a relationship with them. Something that you might think about is also that you will need, if you want to go to grad school later, you will need letters of recommendation from them. And if you speak to them and really, have a conversation about what you want to do and things like that, then they can actually write more about you in that letter than just, oh, this kid was in my class and she did well. That's not very helpful. That's not a good LOR. So if nothing else, you can think about it from that viewpoint. But it is incredibly beneficial to build up a relationship with teachers that you like. And I know that y'all are still online, but I still think that you should make an effort to do this, because this is what I found the most helpful thing about going to college. A lot of people still want to cold email professors, and because they like the sound of that, because they think that they actually stand a chance, and they'll be able to hear how dedicated they are when they email them, and so they want to try it out. Okay, so fine, you can cold email them. This is my advice for that. Don't send out your CV and your CGPA and ask if you can contribute, because nobody will respond. Trust me. What you should do is you should read their website, you should read their papers, you should figure out what they work in, and you should email them with some questions or a specific related problem that you would like to work on. It's much easier for them to respond to you if they think that you're genuinely interested. And when you speak to them, and maybe you think about doing a research internship, ask about the specifics of the work you want to do. Establish what you expect clearly, but also be prepared to be reasonable, because you are a student and you do need a lot of time to get to a point where you can do additional research. And additionally, if you want to cold email, that's fine, but you do have to be prepared to send out a lot of emails. It's not uncommon for people to send out 200 emails, and you will be rejected a lot. 95% of people will not respond to you, very unfortunately. So you have to just keep that in mind. Right, so what research internships are there? All the IITs have research programs. They're great. You should apply to them. Look online for the program web pages. I think most of the applications begin in January. So one way is just, the way that I recommend is speaking to professors and getting them to recommend you to a professor to a researcher who's doing work. The other way is cold emailing. I don't recommend that. The third way is just applying to research programs. That's a pretty decent way of trying to get a foot in the door. ISC also has research programs. I have linked INAE summer program. I don't really know. I've forgotten what they do, but I'm pretty sure it's legit. So I think the ISC one ends in November. So if you do want to try out for that, you should look into it and see if you can apply. And good luck if you do apply. Now, after applying, well, if you get in, brilliant, congratulations. If you get in early, then I think you should ask to start working as soon as possible, because what you want to do ideally is spend time during the internship in the summer doing actual like work instead of only learning things. And so you should spend time before the internship to build up domain knowledge. Once you're there, you should fight for good work if it's necessary. If you think that the work that you're doing is not work that you're happy with, you should believe in yourself and the work that you can do, and you should ask for a change. I mean, be polite about it, but I think you should ask for a change because professors do want you to be happy about the work that you want to do. Obviously, have this be grounded in reality because you are a student. So one day after learning about something, if you get overwhelmed and think, oh God, this is hard, maybe I should not do this, maybe stick with it a bit longer and then see. So, but essentially you should believe in the kind of work that you can do and advocate for yourself. The quality of research that you do is also a function of time that you put in. So if you find a professor and an opportunity where you could do really good, if not great work, then realize how rare and how lucky that is and give it everything that you have. Publishing. The question that I get asked a lot is, do I need to publish papers? How common it is to publish papers can vary from field to field. It is much less common in systems, so I don't have a programming languages paper yet. It is a lot more common in machine learning, so there are different expectations from undergrads in these different fields. There are also a lot of different variables that come to getting work published, a lot of which isn't in your control. And essentially, as an undergraduate, what you should do is you should focus on your work. If the quality of the work is good, you may publish a paper. And really, that is all that you should concentrate on. The publishing paper part should come second. What if you don't get an internship? Getting somebody to give you a chance is hard, and I think I have gotten very lucky with the internships that I have been able to do and the people that I have been able to work with. But I have certainly not gotten a lot more internships than I have. So keep trying and know that everyone goes through this disappointment. It's not that you're stupid or anything else that you may think just because you didn't get an internship. And if nothing else, then pick up a topic that you want to explore and do an independent project. You know, I spoke about this. You should try building a compiler if you think compilers are cool. You should design and implement your own programming language. Essentially, you should be able to realize that your interest in a field isn't purely motivated by if someone gives you a chance in that field or not. So, just try to learn more about the field just because you're interested in it. And in the meantime, it would also be worthwhile thinking about what you can improve in your search process. What are other people doing differently that you aren't? And what can you improve on? And you should still look into doing a research project for your BTech project if you don't do a research internship for your second or your third year. But still your fourth year, you can do research in that and try to explore it a bit more. So, my experience, a lot of the research internships aren't paid. That's very unfortunate because then you need to bear the brunt of travel and living expenses. That is, before COVID, you would be able to travel to these campuses and interact with these professors in person. I could do that for my IIT Patna internship, and I had to bear the brunt of the travel and the living expenses there myself. And I was very lucky to have parents support me through this. At the moment, I don't know what would happen for summer 2022, but so far, all my third year internship as well as my BTech project were entirely online, and they were incredibly productive. So you should not think that if you do an online internship, it's any less than an on-site internship. Very, very useful. Additionally, deciding to pursue research beyond a research internship is also a great privilege because I don't need to provide for anyone. So I can make decisions that will hopefully pay off in later years. And additionally, my parents have always let me do whatever I want, essentially, as long as I had decent enough reason and logic behind it. That can be rare, but yeah, I sympathize if that isn't the case. Additionally, the Cummins undergrad program doesn't have a lot of people who do research. I was the only person who did research as seriously. At the moment, I was the only person who was moving forward with research directly after undergrad and maybe took it as seriously as I did. That can be quite isolating because you can't really talk about the experience of doing research with anyone else, even like your specific domain. If you're in a similar situation, there is community that you can find. I thought Twitter has a great research community, especially around programming languages. So you can find a community elsewhere. If it's hard, then why do people do it? It's lots and lots and lots and lots of fun, and it's really. I mean, I love learning. It fills me with a lot of joy to learn and think about these research problems, which is why I do it. And if you're like me, and if you love learning, then you might just find it to be as fulfilling as I do. You should also check out different subreddits on Reddit for admissions, related advice, for people talking about programming languages. Additionally, you should build up relationships with your seniors and talk to them. Join a technical club. AICVS is great. I joined AICVS in my second year and stayed with the club till the end of my third year, and maybe marginally helped out in my fourth year because I was busy doing research. But it's incredibly useful. I was also in SWE, Society of Women Engineers, which is also a great club. If you are scared of things like talking to people, I definitely was in my first year. You should consider joining student panel, which is what I did in second year, because it is great to really hammer that fear out of you because you have to do it. And when you have to do it, you learn how to speak to people. Another thing that I have seen people fall prey to is that you should be able to judge the advice that is given to you. If someone is telling you that they did 3 internships in their summer and they got it just by, asking these people, think about maybe what they're not telling you. Ask about the specifics of their experience. What did you learn? What would you have done differently, etc., etc. And think about, is this person trying to sell me an impression of themselves? If it seems really easy, if this person is saying that, getting an internship is the easiest thing possible, you might not be getting the whole story. Or they might not have even examined why it was easy for them to get that internship and how it may not be the same case for you. So think about all these things when people give you advice. Before the ask me anything, since we still have time, I can talk about research, using this research to apply to PhD programs as well. So generally, where research is important is generally in PhD programs, because in PhD programs, you are applying for a research position specifically. And, it's a lot of the same, things that you need to apply for master's programs. So you need your GRE, you need your TOEFL score, you need a statement of purpose, you need letters of recommendation, you need like a transcript from your undergraduate institution, etc. Where it differs from in master's programs is that the GRE is not given as much importance. You do need to get like a baseline score, but beyond that, it is not given as much importance. And also, research is heavily weighted. So candidates who have done research are much more likely to get accepted into a PhD program than ones that haven't, because they have a better idea of what they're spending those 6 years doing. So generally, your letters of recommendation for PhD programs are from people who you've worked with and done research with. Your statement of purpose is also very research heavy, where you talk about the research that you've done, what you've liked about it, what you haven't liked about it, the research that you would like to do in the future, etc., etc. So additionally, if you didn't know this, so master's programs are 2 years. PhD programs are 6 years generally in the US, especially if you do it directly after your undergrad, like I'm doing. And the other big difference between master's and PhD programs is that PhD programs are funded. So you don't need to take a loan to study there. I get all my tuition is waived off, so I don't need to pay any tuition. I have assured funding for 5 years, so I get paid for the 5 years of work that I do. Also, like if I need a sixth year to complete my PhD, then that would be taken care of as well. And essentially, you don't need to do things like take a loan. You don't need to worry about how you're going to pay that loan back or whether you're going to get a job in 2 years or not. The university really makes it easy for you to focus on doing research and research only. And it's not just Northeastern that does this. A lot of CS PhD programs are very good at giving funding to students and ensuring that they don't need to worry about how they worry about anything other than the research that they need to do. So it's not a whole lot of money, but it is enough money that you don't need to worry about paying rent. You don't need to worry about whether you can eat food and things like that. And you can live like a generally decent life, especially if you're just one person. So if you are interested in doing research, and especially if you know what that means, if you've done research internship and you know what that means and how you would like to do research in the future, then you should apply to PhD programs, because then you get paid to be able to learn and be able to work on research full time, which is very, very fun. So, yep, that's pretty much it. If you want to learn more about the work that I do specifically, you can visit my website, which is Michelle Davis T at GitHub. And you can also connect with me. I'm on Twitter and I'm on LinkedIn as well. I don't really check LinkedIn a lot, so if I might take a while to accept your connection request. I'm sorry, but I will accept it. And if you don't want to ask me anything right now, you can also email me at michelledavist@gmail.com. But feel free to ask me anything right now as well.
Yeah, okay. So we have one question. Like, when did you realize that you are interested in research? And did you always wanted to do a research?
Sure. I definitely didn't always want to do research. I didn't. Coming into Cummins, I thought that I would do a job after I graduated. I did, however, really know that I wanted to study more, because I had always loved learning new things and learning in general. So I knew that I wanted to do high studies. And when I was looking into how you would possibly be able to do what these people look for in grad school, I heard a lot of advice on the internet, especially from Matt Might's blog posts that talked about how if undergraduates have research experience, then it is always a big plus. So I figured that, okay, well, I don't know what this is because I'd never met anyone who had done research, but let me, if I can try it out, then why not? I'll see it and then I'll figure out if I want to do it or not. Then I did my machine learning internship, and I realized that even though the field wasn't the best fit for me, the process of research was, I thought that it might be a good fit, which I then confirmed with my second internship in programming languages, which was, the field itself was a good fit for me. The professor was a very good fit for me. And being able to do research, full time and think about it full time during the summer was the most fun I've ever had. So that's when I really realized that I want to do research full time after my undergraduate as well. So yeah, it's definitely not something that I knew always. It's something that I learned about myself.
Okay, so we have next question. How should you start? How should you start? What would you be the first? What would be the first step to jump into the research?
Okay, so the first step to jump into the research is essentially this: pick a domain. So, what courses are interesting to you? If you think programming languages are interesting, if you even know what programming language research means, then you should do this Coursera course that I talked about, programming languages, on Coursera. See if it's interesting. And beyond that, beyond taking courses and doing small projects, the way to jump into doing research is really by getting hold of a professor and doing a research internship, because you alone as a student can do very little. It's someone really does have to teach you how research works and how you can do research. So the first step is essentially this: identifying a domain. The second step is getting hold of a professor and giving that all that you possibly can. So yep.
Okay, so we have a few questions which we got through the registration form. So one of from it is like, how did you go about searching for the research opportunities or cold emailing to the research intern to get research internship, especially if you are at the beginner level in the domain that interests you?
So what I generally did, so the machine learning research internship that I did was through cold emailing. It was sort of through cold emailing. I also had a friend who was working at IIT Patna who knew that there was a professor who was looking for research internships, which is why I applied to him and wrote him an email saying that, I've done this machine learning course on Coursera. I like the work. Are you looking for interns? I would love to work with you over the summer. So that was my first internship. But the second internship I got through this way, the way that I say that you should get an internship like this, by approaching professors you know and asking them to refer you to researchers that they know. It's the best way to get an internship, in my opinion. And so that was my second internship, which was the best internship that I have done. And from there on, it really became, I continued to work with that professor for my BTech project as well. So that's how I did it. And I mean, the cold emailing advice is right here. Don't send out your CV. Don't mention your CGPA, because it really, nobody cares that much about it. What you do have to do is read websites, read papers, email them with questions. It's a lot more work, but you have a much higher possibility of them emailing you back if you do that work. And again, if you want to do this, you can. Remember that you will be rejected a lot, which can really sting. However, I would again like to reiterate, this is what you should be doing rather than the cold emailing. Even though this can seem more hard because you do have to talk to professors that you know in the courses that you have. Professors in Cummins are very, very nice. I know a lot of them from just interacting with them. And they would be very happy to refer you to people that they know are doing good work. So that is what I recommend that you do.
Okay, we have one more question, that is it important to have a in-depth knowledge about the topic which we are interested for research, or knowing basics would do too?
Knowing the basics would do. Essentially, when you're doing research sort of at the boundary of human knowledge, basically. No professor is expecting you or should expect you to know everything till that boundary of human knowledge, because you're still an undergrad. There is no way that you would have spent as much time to know everything to that point as they would have. These professors very, they've spent a lot of time in this field, and that's how they know that much. They're not going to expect an undergrad to know that much. So even if you know the basics, that's good enough. And I have been very, very upfront with people about how much I know. I have always, if I think that I don't know something, I say that I don't know this. Can you please explain this to me? And I don't try to pretend that I know something that I do not. So you don't need to think that you need to know everything. You definitely don't. But you do need to be excited about what you don't know, and you need to Be very curious and ask a lot of questions. That's the important thing.
Okay, so next question is what qualities one should have before starting a research?
Um, Really, it's just how excited you are. How excited you are, how driven you are to do a problem. Research is not an easy thing to do. It can be quite hard because you sort of are pushing yourself every day to learn things, and you're also pushing yourself every day to be very creative and invent new things, essentially. That can be very hard, that can be very demoralizing, because sometimes, it can take a long time for you to invent something. It can take a long time for you to understand something, because these are very complicated topics. Again, you're at the boundary, you're at the edge of human knowledge when you're doing original research. And it can also be hard to get things to work. It can be frustrating, it can be very annoying. But ultimately, what pushes you through all this is actually being interested in the work that you do. Because when you're interested in the work that you do, then you don't want to give up doing it, because it's just so incredibly fascinating that you want to keep doing it. And that's really the quality that I think you should have when you start a research internship. That's how you will be able to do a successful research internship. And it's not just me who thinks this. All the mentors that I've had who have, helped me grow tremendously and helped me do research and learn more about research think this as well. I have point blank asked people, asked professors that I've worked with, that do you need to be smart to do research? And they've all said, what's more important is excitement and how driven you are, and how ready you are to persist in solving a problem when no one knows what the solution is. So that's what you should keep in mind.
Okay, Vaishnavi is saying that research needs a lot of patience and hard work. So, was there any situation that you wanted to give up after some point?
Good question. um, I don't think I've so far wanted to give up on anything, because I have. I mean, a good thing about working with professors and a good thing about working with other students as well is that you sort of motivate each other, and you're not doing it alone. So it does require you are right that it requires a lot of patience and a lot of hard work, but you are also with other people who also realize that it requires a lot of patience and hard work, and you sort of help each other and motivate each other to be able to do whatever you want to do. So I don't think I've ever wanted to give up, but I do think I've gotten very frustrated. In my third year internship, we were designing a data structure that would help us do a project. The project was designing a data structure that would help us do this one, like two, three specific operations very fast. And something just wasn't working, and I needed to be able to essentially like figure out how to do an operation very quickly. And it wasn't working. I couldn't figure anything out. And I spent days and days just staring at a problem and trying to think about what I could possibly do. And then, very suddenly it hit me. And that's generally my experience with research, is that things are very frustrating, and you keep on thinking about something and you're very like, it's not working. I don't know what to do. And then suddenly, usually for me, this is right before I'm falling asleep. Like I will be mostly asleep, and then suddenly my head will be like, "This is what you need to do. This is the solution." And then I have to get up and I have to draw out everything and be like, "Oh yes, this is how it works. This is the right thing." And it's very very satisfying when that happens, because then you get it, and it won't happen the first time. So like you have an idea and you will show it to your professor, and then you will think, oh, and he'll be like, oh, this is good, but maybe this is not as good. Then you go, you stare at the problem again for a few days. You will come back with another idea. And then slowly, you end up with something that is really like beautiful and really works properly. So, yes, I have been very frustrated. That's not the only project that I've been frustrated in. I've been frustrated in other projects as well, multiple times. But it's very rewarding when it works, definitely.
Yeah. So Sandhya is asking, what qualities do professors look in an individual for selecting undergrad students for research internships?
So yeah, it's excitement, and it's about how excited you are, how driven you are about, and genuinely excited. So generally, how these research internships work is that professors will speak to you. They'll do like a video call with you. They'll speak to you to be able to just figure out what you're thinking and what you know about the field so far. And what I like to call them is vibe checks. So they check your vibe and they check how genuine you seem. And I have and this is the same for like grad school, PhD interviews as well, where they look at if you, well, they obviously want to know that you've done the work that you've done previously and how excited you are about that, but also how excited you are to learn about things that you don't know about. So if you are, I remember with my third year internship when I was talking to the professor, I was just like, oh, are we going to do this? I don't know anything about it, but it seems interesting. And I've heard that you can do this and solve this problem. Has anybody looked at that? What about this problem? That seems interesting. And I was just very excited about the work that I could possibly be doing. I didn't even know if I could do the work. I was just excited about even trying. And this has happened multiple times. So I genuinely do think that the way that you get internships is just by being incredibly excited about the work that you could possibly do. Again, professors aren't really interested in how smart you are, because beyond a point, how smart you are is not going to help you because again, smart is almost like how many things you know. If you're doing research, you're working at the boundary of human knowledge. Nobody knows anything beyond that. So it's impossible for you to be as smart as to know everything in the universe. So what they're looking for, especially in undergraduate students, is excitement and like joy and interest in doing the research that you want to do.
Okay, next question is how to apply for international universities. How to apply to international universities for internships.
Okay. If so, I know that Cummins has a tie-up with Notre Dame University, and I think they do like machine learning research or something. So if you want to apply through Cummins, great idea. There's also another. There's something called MidCast or something, a research program. You could apply through that. I would, however, discourage you from applying or only applying to international universities. If the amount of people applying to IITs is high, like, can you imagine the amount of people who are applying to international universities? So that's one thing. And additionally, you have to be clear about why you are doing an internship. Are you doing an internship to be able to say that, oh, I went to University of Waterloo and I did research, and I'm very cool and I'm very smart. If that's why you want to do an internship, great, no problem. Apply to all the foreign universities, because the more prestigious the university, the better your goal is achieved. No problem. If, however, you want to learn a lot and you want to do good research, there are plenty of Indian universities where that happens as well, and which are very well known in the US as well. So if the point of doing an internship is to do the internship and learn a lot, then foreign universities aren't the only place where you can learn a lot. And I mean, the process, I haven't ever applied to a foreign university for an internship, but the process would be very similar. Maybe you would have to give an academic transcript with your CGPA. You would also have to provide LORs, letters of recommendations from people in your university, who can recommend you that, okay, this person should work with this professor because that's a good idea. And another good idea is a lot of summer schools. So specifically, I can show you. I'm still screen sharing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in programming languages, there is something called it's U plus is what it's called, and it is the Oregon Programming Languages Summer School, and it was presented virtually in 2021. It will be presented, I don't know, it might be like a hybrid thing next year. And there are participants from all over the world that show up here and just learn about, all these different things, all these different topics in programming languages. And there are summer schools for a lot of other fields as well. There is something that I know in software engineering called so it's co-located with a lot of conferences as well. So this is another one where you have these summer schools, you have all these people who speak at the summer school, and you end up like learning a lot, and you end up meeting these speakers as well, who know a lot about the work that they're doing. And there are summer schools in India as well. So if you want to, I highly recommend going in person to these things. So you should try to go to them as well. I think they are in IISc, maybe organizes some. I haven't gone to the Indian summer schools, and this one these two I've just been to online because everything was online because of COVID. But I really wish that I had discovered this before my like final year. So yeah, you should look into things like this as well because you get to learn a lot.
Okay. The next question is, when is the right time to start the preparation for GRE or TOEFL, and what score is expected to get accepted for PhD program?
Okay, so I mean, generally the application deadlines are in December. It's probably different for different schools. Most of the places that I applied to were in December. I know that some programs have their application deadlines in January. And you have to have given TOEFL before November, and you have had to have given GRE before November as well. So I remember I gave GRE on the day that Pune went into lockdown. Great thing that happened. But yeah, I was very lucky. I was one of the last people in Pune to give GRE in person. So that was essentially like my third year, second semester, April, 16th April, if I'm not wrong, is when I gave GRE. And then I gave TOEFL in, I think, November 1st or 2nd, because it kept on getting canceled because of COVID. I had to try to give it 3 times. And on the third time, I finally could finish it and got a score that I could submit. So it really depends on when you want to, when you want to actually go ahead and apply. If you want to apply directly after undergrad, you should definitely give. So again, some schools are not requiring you to submit the GRE as well right now, especially PhD programs. So you should look into that before you give the GRE. Maybe you can just not give the GRE as well.
So
But
so just if they are not expecting the GRE score, then on what basis do they accept the candidate?
Okay, so right? Even when it comes to like, what is a good GRE? For for PhD admissions, I would say if you get like a 320 plus, that's fine. Because what the GRE and TOEFL are used for is not to select candidates. GRE and TOEFL are used for cutoffs. So if you've gotten above 320, then all the schools that you're looking at should be like looking in your application further. The way that they select students in PhD programs is not based on GRE at all. What it is based on is what research you have done so far, because it is a research like position that you are applying for. So what research have you done so far? How do you talk about that in your personal statement? Are you able to articulate the research that you've done and why it's important? Are you able to talk about what was hard about the research, what problem you solved, what challenges you overcome, things like that? Are you able to talk about the research that you want to do in the future, the work that you want to do in the future in general? Are there any problems that you're interested in solving specifically in that domain? And these aren't all necessary, but generally, if you have answered questions like these in your statement of purpose, great. And the final decision. So PhD programs, you are essentially like tied to an advisor. So I have two advisors. I have Amal Ahmed, who advises me, as well as Frank Tip. And both Amal and Frank interviewed me, where we talked about the research that I've done before. We talked about the research that I want to do in the future, as well as how that aligns with the research that they are doing. And it's really the basis of that discussion that a professor decides whether they want to take you on, and whether they want to take you on as a PhD student for the next like 5-6 years. That is the deciding factor, rather than GRE and TOEFL is just used as like a cutoff.
Okay.
The important thing is the research you've done
So
and the research you want
clearly,
to
it
do.
is like whatever the professor decides. If he
Yes,
wants us.
it's whatever the professor decides essentially. At some points, it can also be, what does the professor decide? Does the graduate admissions committee in that school agree with that professor? So a professor has to be able to like back you up and say, I really want this girl in. She's great. I think she has a lot of research potential, and I think she would be a wonderful addition to the PhD program that we have here. And the graduate admissions committee, which is made up of other professors, have to also agree with that person. And they're only going to be able to agree if you have done research in the past, and they're able to be like, yes, oh, she did research in the past. This very good person who does a lot of research in our community right now has recommended her to us and said that she has a lot of research potential and she's able to do like good quality research. So let's take her on. Let's see what she can do.
Okay, we have one more question. If I want to apply for MTech, then can undergrad research benefit me, especially to get into a good college for MTech?
So I don't know much about MTech, but I'm pretty sure. And by the way, there's also something called MS in IITs, and I think IIT Bombay has an MS that they started last year, which is a very good option because you get to do more research than a standard MTech. But in MTech admissions, what I know is that you write GATE. Based on GATE, you either the better the institution, you either have like a test or an interview or something of the sort. If you have done research, it's something that you can talk about, and it's something that these people would be able to like, yes, this person has done research with this other professor, we should take her on, essentially. So it's not going to be a disadvantage, definitely not. It's going to be something very interesting that you can talk about in your interview, especially in the really, really good places like IIT Bombay and IISc. So definitely worth thinking about and considering.
Okay, so the one last question is like, if we don't have any sort of research internships done, and we have just our final year BTech project, then can we get accepted? Can a person get accepted to a PhD program to the foreign universities?
Just a final year research project, right?
Yeah.
So it's very good that you have a final year research project. That is very valid research experience, especially because it's like a whole year worth of doing research. PhD admissions are very, very hard to predict. Okay, so I did not, very frankly, did not know whether I would get into PhD programs. I just figured out that, I really want to do research. I have research experience. Let me apply and then see what happens. And luckily it worked out, but it very well could not have worked out as well. It's very, very hard to predict because it matters. It depends on the professors who you're interested in working with. It matters whether they have the funding to support you. It matters if they have the time to take on an additional student into their group. So a lot of these things are completely outside your control. So if possible, I would definitely encourage you to apply. Especially if you have like prior research experience, you should apply. Part of this is also dependent on how good your letters of recommenders are. Do you have are your recommendations from people who are known in the international research community? Because essentially these grad school professors are going to trust people who they have heard about do good research. So if someone who does good research recommends you, much easier to get accepted in that case. So that's another question that you should be asking yourself. And what else? And yeah, it also depends on the sort of field you want to work in. It's, for example, I've heard that it's like trying to get into a machine learning PhD is incredibly, incredibly hard. The same expectations of PhD students or applicants is not there in other research communities. So, for example, in programming languages, it is not expected that an undergrad write a research paper, because research papers in programming languages can take like several years to get published, just because there's a lot of work that goes into it, especially if it's like good quality work. And so that expectation is not there that you have done, that you have a paper, but that is definitely across the board in all fields an expectation that you have done prior research. Which is why I say that if you've done prior research, if you want to do a PhD and you want to like explore research more, you should apply. If you want to build up research experience and you're in your fourth year and you want to build up research experience because you want to do research in the future and you don't think you have enough research experience right now, great idea is to get an RA-ship. And again, the way that you get an RA-ship is very similar to getting your, getting your internship itself. Ask if people can refer you to researchers that they know. And the good thing about getting an RA-ship in IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, and all these places is that they will pay you enough for you to be able to like live on campus and eat and things like that. You wouldn't have to ask your parents for money, which is a great thing. You would then spend the 1 year working with professors, building up research experience, and then you can use that in applying to grad school in the next cycle. So, yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I think we are done with the questions.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. These are the best set of questions that I've received. I give this talk a fair amount and very good questions today. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll end the broadcast.